You are listening to the 4-Phase Cycle Podcast with your hosts, Megan and Alex of Zesty Ginger. If you're looking to naturally balance hormones and learn how to work with your body instead of against it, you have come to the right place. As a duo of an integrative MD and a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, we use the 4 phases of the feminine cycle in combination with functional lab work to transform the lives of the women we work with. Just a quick reminder though, this information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your own doctor before making changes. Ready to take control of your health? Let's get started.
Hi there, this is Alex. Thanks again for coming back to our podclasses. This is actually going to be it. It's going to be the last one, which is crazy. But don't worry, this is just it for season 1. I wanted to do a complete primer on hormone cycles and sort of everything that goes into that. But of course, every single aspect of this can be gone into more detail, other ways of looking at it, and all the things that Megan and I have worked over our individual, decades of having done this. And so we are going to be wrapping up for now. I wanted to end on the topic of sugar first wrap up, just because this is such an important thing to address for women. You'll notice that we don't do, none of what Megan or I do is all about, fixing symptoms right off the bat. And what I mean to say, for example, is like, we don't ever write articles that are like, here's how to lose weight. Here's how to, make your hair look prettier. Because well, I have a lot to say about this, but we don't do one-off symptoms because for the most part, most women have multiple aspects of what their life is like that leads to the health results that they have. And so trying to hone in on one particular problem, it's a great way to work with people, but we want to be really honest about the fact that it's not your weight loss that's the most important, or eating sugar that's most important, or eating less sugar is most important. It's all of you functioning together in the most optimal way possible. And when you do that, a lot of these other problems like weight loss, too much sugar, not enough sleep, whatever, or poor sleep, begin to be positively impacted. And then with those positive shifts, you kind of get more leverage and you can take the next steps. And so for that reason, we always focus on the basis of everything and then eventually get to the symptoms. And so while you will hear us mention symptoms, a lot of times that's not what we directly focus on, because we want this built-in understanding that underlies everything, right? So while this isn't directly about weight loss, sugar intake and sugar exposure is really important for all of the symptoms that we have. The sugar and blood sugar regulation system and the rest of the hormonal system is all under the umbrella of endocrine system. And so you could be doing a lot of great stuff, but you could be sort of shooting yourself in the foot by having a really high cheap sugar intake, or high for you. Now, Megan and I went to PaleoFX last year at the time that I'm recording this, and we listened to a couple of really interesting talks on blood sugar regulation. And there's so many now with the wearable blood sugar monitors where it samples your blood. It's like a little thing that you wear on your skin, and it keeps track, and you can get a kind of minute by minute, not minute by minute, but time by small period of time reading on how you respond to food, stress, sleep, on all of those things that impact blood sugar regulation. And the short answer that everyone at PaleoFX was talking about, and we've since then read more about, is that people respond to foods really differently. For some reason, he was showing two people when one person had a banana and one person had a cookie, and they watched the response, and then they flipped the who ate the cookie and who ate the banana. And in one person, the cookie spiked their blood sugar a lot more, and then the other person, the cookie actually spiked it a lot less, and the banana had a much spike. So with that in mind, we all have very individualized blood sugar regulation systems, but it still ends up being, no matter where you are or what foods work for you, it still has to be individualized for you. And that's part of why we don't believe in prescribed diets quite so much. We believe in testing. And so a lot of that information you can get through an elimination diet, because you will feel, if it spikes your blood sugar, you're going to feel sluggish, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel like taking a nap, you're not going to have great energy, you're going to get a headache. All of these things tip us off. So an elimination diet in and of itself is sort of built to monitor for this without necessarily diagnosing the problem. But if you get a cheap glucose monitor from Amazon and begin to test your blood sugar, you can actually go pretty deep into figuring out what foods most sustain you and what foods keep you feeling energized and fullest the longest. So that is kind of ideally where we want to get through. But let's talk about sugar cravings, because it's one thing to say eat less sugar and you'll feel better. It's another thing to step away from the cookies when you're done like inhaling half the sleeve. So we're going to talk about decreasing cravings, so prevent them from happening. And then the second part is, if they're already happening, then what to do about them. So that's the two parts. So the first one we're going to hit up is decreasing cravings and minimizing them from happening to begin with. The first thing we like to talk about is adequate intake of calories. So a lot of women, especially when they've been having hormonal problems and they're trying to lose weight, will severely limit either calories or carbs. And it gets to the point where their blood sugar regulation system is so dysfunctional from the entire hormonal blood sugar regulation piece that it actually ends up making things worse. So they'll notice they can eat really clean and they can go work out for hours at a time and they can't lose a dang pound. Like, if anything, they get bigger. And it's not uncommon that we see this. We tend, for that reason, not to do the low carb thing and make sure that you're actually supplying enough nutrients for your energetic, or calories and nutrients for your energetic needs. So we don't really believe in under eating. It ends up creating more cravings and worse blood sugar regulation, and you will feel worse overall than if you just began to eat more healthfully but not limit a lot of carbs and calories. And when you address the underlying hormonal imbalances that are keeping you at a higher weight, then that's when you can lose the weight and keep it off. Otherwise, you're just going to keep yo-yo dieting, which is really, really painful. So that's why we don't say, oh, here's a program for weight loss, because we don't believe in it that way. What we believe in is, you're fueling your body, and then all of these problems begin to be resolved through that, and it ends up being much, much, much more meaningful. So make sure you're eating enough food at all, first of all, and make sure that you're not going to low carb is another thing. And so when it comes to low carb, instead of we don't obviously want you transitioning away from cheaper sources of sugar, like Wonder Bread, just huge bagels with nothing else, a lot of sandwiches type thing. Instead, we like doing root veggies, complex carbs, some of the more, we basically want the carbs that we eat to not only be nutritious, but also last for a longer time. We also want to make sure that we're eating plenty of protein. So if you are, if you've already made sure that you're having some sort of complex carb, including root veggies and other kind of heartier vegetables and sources of carbs, then we want to also ensure that we are eating enough protein with our meals. So generally, whether it's a meal or a snack, I try to balance my plate: protein, fats, carbs, and then veggies. And the fat is over vegetables, the protein is with vegetables, the carbs with, can be root veggies. Like, you can play around which foods are making up each category, but make sure that you're covering those bases. And so my snacks look something like a beef jerky stick and an apple and an elixir, or an apple with almond butter and water, or a lemon water or something like that. Basically, I try to make my snacks little meals, and so that all those ratios are hit. And a lot of times that alone can keep your blood sugar levels stable. And it ends up being fairly straightforward, because you can literally, instead of keeping track of calories, you can organize your plate so that you can see each food group represented and take a snapshot of it. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, well, that week that I was taking pictures of like regular meals while I just had an apple as a snack or something with nothing else. I wanted more sugar after lunch after I did that. But the following week, when I added almond butter and I was staying adequately hydrated and all that, all of a sudden those cravings just don't come up. So it ends up being pretty cool that way. And then the other thing is getting enough B vitamins. So I love liver for B vitamins, but you can get like a methylated B complex supplement. There's, I believe there's a pure encapsulations one, because I got it from my dad, and that can be, the answer to some of the more resistant cravings. But it's not just B vitamins. If you're nutrient deficient because you've dieted for years and years and years, then your job is it won't get fixed with one-off supplements, because I know supplements just aren't as effective. If you truly feel like you have not been nourished, either because your diet was so poor or you just didn't eat enough food in the past, then for you, it's less of a supplement issue and more of like every single meal should be an answer to how can I get more nutrients? And so your meal should reflect that. And that is by far the best way I've ever found to fight my own cravings. So when I eat that way, I focus less on deprivation, which is nice. I'm not thinking, what can't I eat? I think, what can I eat and what do I need to eat to boost my nutrient levels? And a lot of times the sugar cravings just don't happen. So that's kind of a nice way to go against the deprivation mindset that plagues so many of us ladies. All right. But what happens if cravings actually hit? So, you didn't do so hot and now you're dealing with cravings and you're like, I'm going to eat a pack of Oreos if I don't get this handled. First things first, take a couple deep breaths. A lot of times underlying stress response, the need to be comforted, the need to be heard, the need to be loved, the need to feel secure, the feeling of certainty in your life. All of those things a lot of times masquerade as physical symptoms or physical sensations. And so a craving can just be kind of a misguided attempt of your body to find something to make you feel better. So take a couple deep breaths and begin to utilize all the tools that you've gotten from journaling and meditation and all the kind of things you found out about yourself to ask your own internal guidance what you need and what it is that you're looking for. This is a muscle just like anything else, and so we get better at doing this when we do it consistently. So if you are mindlessly munching away, if you're craving hard, if you're like, I need to go make a emergency Ben and Jerry's run, those are all the times to do it. And even if that time you still go get whatever craving you want and you eat it, it's not a fail. It's just you're still getting better. So that is instead of beating yourself up and shaming yourself, which is inherently sort of, it doesn't make you feel good. So it's not a great way to make lasting change. You want to make yourself feel empowered. So, I did that. I still made that decision, but hey, at least I stopped and I thought about it first. Okay, so deep breaths, take a second, listen to your internal voice. Sometimes, you've probably heard this already, cravings can be thirst masquerading as something else, and so drinking an elixir, if it's bad, sometimes I'll do a tart cherry addition to my elixir because it's a little bit sweet, and sometimes between that hydration and the nutrients of what I put in the elixir and kind of like that little sweetness from the tart cherry juice will take care of it on its own. So sometimes it's as simple as that. If it's really bad and you wonder, well, maybe I just didn't eat enough, and so instead of this being craving, maybe it's just hunger, and that's why I want the candy bar. Eat something with proteins and fats in it, and then wait about 20-30 minutes and see if that took care of it. Sometimes it is just we're hungry and we didn't eat, and we undershot for what our meal was for the energy that we expended. So eat something, because you'll see it's a little counterintuitive because we're all diet mentality, right? So you're like, no, but what if I'm gonna eat more meat and veggies or like another thing of sweet potato? Like aren't I gonna be fat? But the thing is, veggies and root vegetables and complex carbs and proteins are all relative. They're really big bang for your buck but relatively low in calories. So a lot of times you'll make faster results in the long term. Like you'll lose weight over time faster, it'll turn out, if you do it consistently and slowly by fueling yourself with food. And so it's okay to eat more. You just have to understand that you're swapping out 500 extra calories from that Ben & Jerry's you were going to inhale to 250 calories of really nutrient-dense foods that then go on to serve you in many different ways. And of course, it's not all about calories by a long shot. We've seen that over years and years and years, of course, in our society. But it's still, I'm just using that an example to illustrate that it's okay to eat more food, because it's okay to eat more better food, and in the long run that does you a world of good. All right, the other thing, I'll give 2 kind of supplemental glutamine capsules. Opened and then put directly on the tongue can fight cravings really quickly. And then magnesium supplementation, like a topical magnesium spray or taking an Epsom salt bath, can help abate some of those cravings as well. Although, of course, check with your provider before you start any supplements anywhere. And then lastly, what I always think about nowadays is a lot of times my cravings, and I'm guessing you're a similar thing, is that a lot of times what we're missing is actually connection with other people and connection to love and, a tribe and a group of people we feel like we fit in with. And so sometimes that it's like an emotional craving that we try to fill with food. And sometimes calling up a friend or going out to lunch or get your nails done with a girlfriend or go meet up over some tea is actually what fulfills that craving a lot more. Even though it will pretend to be a food craving, it will actually be alleviated by contact and connections with people. And if you don't have women around you that are that you can connect with, then social media and the internet has ended up being a great place. We have a Facebook group. You can come hang out with us. We always have a lot of great women in there. We can, connect with us on social media. There's lots of groups out there that come together. Our group programs, we always, for our Healthy Hormones group program, we do an accountability buddy. We try to have people put out little ads for themselves and they match themselves up. We've had women drive and meet each other. We've had women talk weekly or even daily on the phone, check in with each other, see how they're doing, keep each other accountable for things. And Megan and I met online. We have such a close relationship now. We're obviously business partners. We create programs together. We help our female clients work on their protocols together. She's become one of the top connections in my life, and I met her through the internet. So, we're living in a day and age where you can meet people. You're not just stuck with the people that are around you. So connect, and a lot of times that emotional connection makes us feel loved and allows us freedom from attachments like obsessing over food or focusing on what we can't eat, but now obviously want to. So that's that for sugar. Hopefully that was helpful. That is actually it for our Podclasses. Can you believe it? We are going to be back with more later. Make sure we're going to be creating them as we go for future seasons. So make sure to stop by and let us know what you'd like to hear about, what you found helpful, what you want to know more about, all of that good stuff. Our email is support@zestyginger.com. All right, ladies, it's been my pleasure and my honor to chat with you over these classes, and I so appreciate you coming by. If you've been enjoying these, please share them with your friends and anyone else that you see as, woman to woman. If you see someone struggling, pass these along. Let them know that they don't have to just be stuck where they are, that there's a way to live that makes all of this a lot easier and a lot more pleasant. All right, ladies, have a wonderful day, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for stopping by this Podclass. If you are ready to dig deeper into your health, really understand your cycle, stop guessing with random supplements, and start testing, our Healthy Hormones group starts September 27th. You can find more details at zestyginger.com/healthy hormones and find out if this is the place for you. And as always, we offer free 20-minute consultations, so jump on the phone with us and we'll help you decide if it's a good fit.